Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. What you're about to hear is not a story about healing. It's the kind of story you only understand after you've stood in a room full of strangers, watching someone cry over what they destroyed. Let's begin. The pianist was playing something cheerful when her wine glass slipped from her hand. It hit the floor in slow motion, shattering into silence. People turned. Conversations paused. And I just stood there. She didn't notice me at first. Not until someone whispered, "Isn't that your ex?" Loud enough for the music to feel like background noise. Then her eyes met mine. And in that second, just that one stupid second, her entire face crumbled. She dropped to her knees, like her legs forgot how to hold her. No scream. No words. Just shaking shoulders and smeared mascara. And all I could think about was how much this carpet probably cost. I didn't rush to her. I didn't even move. Not because I wanted to punish her. Because I'd already spent 3 years playing that scene in my head. Over and over and over. And none of those versions ever came close to this. You don't expect the person who betrayed you to break down first. You don't expect them to cry harder than you did. But that's what happened. At a work event on a Thursday between a shrimp tower and a budget projection presentation, she saw me. And broke down in front of everyone. I hadn't spoken to her since the day she slammed the apartment door behind her, wearing that leather jacket she swore was just vintage. When in reality, it was his. I hadn't heard from her when my mother passed. Not a card. Not a text. Nothing. Just silence. So no, I didn't run to help. I just watched. And as people rushed to her, coworkers, guests, even that one guy from accounting who always forgets to mute on Zoom, I stood still. Because I needed this. I needed her to see what it looks like to lose something and not get it back. And if you think this is where the story ends, spoiler alert, it doesn't. It gets worse. They had to carry her out. I'm not kidding. 2 men in awkward business suits half lifted, half guided her through the exit like she was made of glass. Her clutch dropped, her heels snapped, and someone whispered, "What the hell happened?" While others pretended not to stare but absolutely did. I still hadn't moved. I kept holding that tiny appetizer plate with a half-eaten crab puff, like it anchored me to something real. But everything else in that moment felt like fog. Fake. Staged. Like I was watching a movie I'd seen before, except this time I was standing inside it, completely numb. After she disappeared through the doors, people tried to go back to normal. But the mood had shifted. The jazz band played something softer. Someone made an uncomfortable joke about the wine being too strong. My friend Olivia came up beside me and quietly said, "Do you want to leave?" I shook my head. I didn't want to leave. I wanted answers. And they weren't going to come from an Uber ride home. I hadn't seen Greta since the divorce. Not once. No texts. No emails. Just a single, cold message from her lawyer. "She will not contest the separation." That's how I found out she was finished with me. I had to sign my future away with a pen that still smelled like her perfume. She vanished, moved cities, changed jobs, and now, 3 years later, she shows up at the same networking event, by complete accident, and breaks down like I held the match that burned our life to the ground? No, that wasn't guilt. That was fear. Fear of being exposed. Fear of something catching up to her. And maybe, I dared to hope, fear that I knew something she thought I didn't. Because here's the part one haven't told you yet. A week before the event, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. No note. Just a single printed photo. It was Greta, laughing, in bed, with someone I recognized immediately. It wasn't Fletcher, the neighbor she left me for. It was someone worse. Someone with power. And someone who was definitely not supposed to be in that photo. At first, I thought it was some kind of prank. I almost threw it out. But then the second envelope came, the morning of the event. And inside it, there wasn't a photo this time, but a room number. And the name of the hotel hosting the mixer. I didn't know what it meant. But when Greta saw me, I think she did. And that reaction, that wasn't just heartbreak. It was panic. And I had a feeling the real story, what really went down after she left me, was just beginning to unravel. So no, I didn't leave the event that night. I waited. because someone wanted me to know something. And now, I was ready to find out everything. I waited until the event was nearly over. People filtered out slowly, some still whispering about what had happened with Greta. I kept my distance, making polite nods and pretending to check emails, but my mind was locked on that number, 913. The hotel's elevator chimed like it was mocking me. Each floor ticked off as I rode up, feeling like I was about to open a door to my past, or worse, my own stupidity. I hadn't told anyone about the envelopes, not even Olivia. I figured if this was a trap, it was mine to walk into, alone, like I did the day I found Greta's necklace under our neighbor's couch. When the elevator opened on the 9th floor, the hallway was nearly silent. Room 913 was down the left corridor, third door on the right. Beige carpet, overpriced art on the walls, and the scent of lemon polish. My hand hesitated at the door. I wasn't even sure what I expected. A confrontation? A second envelope? Maybe someone waiting with answers? What I didn't expect was that the door was cracked open. Just slightly. Pushed it. And the moment it opened fully, I froze. On the bed were more photos, dozens, spread out like a gallery of betrayal. Some I recognized. Some I didn't. Greta with men in different cities, different hotels. Some candid, some obviously taken without her knowing. I picked one up carefully. Her in Chicago, standing next to a man in a tailored gray suit. The date printed in the corner was just 6 months after our divorce. But then, I found one that made my stomach drop. It was me asleep, in our old apartment, probably a year before she left. And behind me, in the blurry background through the cracked bathroom door, was Greta, with someone else. His hand was on her waist, her head tilted back, laughing. She took these, or someone did. While I was asleep, I backed away, heart pounding, when I noticed the sound. A click. Not from the door. From the bathroom. I wasn't alone. I reached slowly toward my pocket, pretending to check my phone, but really just trying to stay steady. My legs felt untrustworthy, like they might give out at any second. Then the door opened, and he stepped out. Not Fletcher. Not some random guy. No, it was Dean Whitmore, executive director, married, father of 4. The same man who just gave a keynote speech about integrity and ethics 2 hours earlier. He looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. He walked past me without making eye contact, grabbed a black briefcase from the desk, and left the room silently, like nothing had happened. Like I didn't just see his whole world crack open. I stood there, completely alone, surrounded by photos, truth, and questions I wasn't ready to answer. Why were these left for me? Who sent them? And why now, after 3 silent years? Then I noticed one final thing. On the nightstand, a phone. Not mine. Not Greta's. A burner. The screen lit up as I picked it up. New message. Now you see what she's capable of. You ready to hear the rest? I stared at that message for a long time, like the words might rearrange themselves into something less insane. Now you see what she's capable of. You ready to hear the rest? The phone had no lock screen, no wallpaper, just that single message. I checked the messages folder, empty. Call log, nothing. Photos, blank. The only thing stored on the phone was that message and a saved contact labeled simply as me. Was this a game? A setup? Or something more deliberate? I waited, standing in that strange hotel room where every shadow felt like it had a secret. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. But 5 minutes later, another message came through. Check the dresser drawer. I walked to the short wooden dresser beneath the TV, hesitating before I touched the handle. The hotel was too quiet, the kind of quiet that feels wrong, manufactured, suffocating. Pulled the drawer. Inside was an unmarked manila envelope. Heavy. Thicker than I expected. Inside it, documents, printed screenshots, emails, a full-blown dossier. And it wasn't just about Greta. The first page was a timeline. Dates. Names. Transactions. I scanned through and saw something that almost made me sit down right there on the floor. My name. Our marriage date. The date she opened a private bank account 2 months before telling me she needed space. I flipped the page. Photos of her meeting with a man in a cafe I used to go to every Thursday. That same man? Listed on the third page with a company name, a foreign address, and an alarming connection. He worked for a firm that had recently been investigated for laundering funds through phony consulting contracts. I didn't understand all of it, but I understood enough to realize that this wasn't about a bad breakup. This wasn't about a cheating ex-wife. This was something else. Greta had been involved in something much bigger than just emotional betrayal. And whoever sent this wanted me to know everything. The last item in the folder was a photo of Greta at the event that night, arriving alone, but not unobserved. A red circle drawn around the back of her neck. There was something small and metallic clipped to the back of her dress. I hadn't noticed it in person, but now it was obvious. A microphone, or a tracker. She was being watched. And somehow, I had been pulled back into the middle of something I didn't even understand. I needed air. I shoved the documents back into the folder, grabbed the burner phone, and left the room without looking back. My chest was tight. My thoughts scrambled. The elevator felt like a coffin. Down in the lobby, I spotted Olivia near the entrance, sipping a watered-down cocktail and chatting with someone from finance. She looked over, her smile dropping as soon as she saw my face. She mouthed, "Are you okay?" And I nodded too quickly, hoping she'd let it go for now. As I stepped outside into the crisp night air, the phone buzzed again. "Meet me, 11:45 p.m. Parking garage, level B3. Come alone. Bring the folder." No name, no threats, just instructions. This wasn't over. Greta's breakdown wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was fear, because whatever she had gotten herself into, someone had just made me part of it. By the time I got to the parking garage, the building was nearly empty, just echoes and blinking exit signs casting long shadows. The air was heavy with that cold concrete smell, damp, industrial, sterile. I kept the envelope tucked under my arm and the burner phone in my jacket pocket, still not sure if I was walking into some kind of setup or if I'd already walked into something worse. Level B3 looked abandoned. The fluorescent lighting above flickered every few seconds, creating this eerie strobe effect that made every parked car look like it might move. I walked slowly, my footsteps sounding way louder than they should have, like the walls were listening. At first, I thought no one was there. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe the messages had been sent from some creep watching too many spy movies. I stood in the middle of the row, looked around. Nothing. And then I heard it. Someone whispered my name. Milo. Came from behind one of the columns. I turned fast, my pulse thudding in my ears, but I didn't run. I just stood my ground. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was a woman, mid-40s, sharp eyes, dark blazer, no visible badge or ID, but everything about her screamed, government adjacent. She held up her hands like she didn't want to scare me. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said quickly, "but you need to listen. You're not safe." I didn't say anything. I just stared, clutching the folder tighter. "You were never supposed to see Greta again," she continued. "But she broke protocol. Showing up tonight, panicking like that, compromised everything." "What do you mean protocol?" I asked. The woman glanced over her shoulder, then stepped closer. "Greta has been under surveillance for over 2 years. She got involved with the wrong people after your separation. We let her go, hoping she'd lead us to something bigger. She did. But tonight, she recognized you, and now they might see you as leverage." I swallowed hard. "Leverage for what?" "She's been moving more than money," the woman said. "Documents, files, names. Half of them don't even know they've been exposed yet. She used your credentials to access systems, before and after your divorce. Whether you like it or not, you're now tied to her trail." My head spun. "Then why leave all this for me?" I held up the folder. "Why drag me into it now?" She paused. "Because someone in our unit thinks she's not acting alone. That she's protecting someone. Maybe you, maybe herself. Either way, you've become a variable we can't ignore anymore." I looked at her, trying to read her face. So what now? You can hand over the folder, she said. Walk away. We'll make sure you stay protected. Or, she hesitated. You can keep going. Try to find out the whole truth. But if you do that, understand this, you're stepping into something no one will pull you out of. Felt like a movie line, like something someone rehearses before delivering it under a spotlight. But nothing about this felt like a movie anymore. I glanced at the envelope again. Thought about the photo of Greta with the device clipped to her dress. Thought about the timeline, the bank records, the men I didn't recognize. And thought about the message. Now you see what she's capable of. I looked the woman in the eye and asked, if I walk away now, will I ever know what she really did to me? She didn't answer. She just turned around and walked toward a black SUV, disappearing without another word. I stood alone, envelope still in my hands. And I knew. I wasn't walking away. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I sat at my kitchen table, the folder wide open, staring at the documents like they might rearrange themselves into something more believable. But they didn't. Every page was another betrayal. Every note, every bank transfer, every timestamp told the same story. Greta had been living a double life long before she ever walked out of mine. And the worst part? I still didn't know why. I wasn't angry. Not really. I was past that. Felt like grief, but not for her. For me. For the idiot I used to be. For the man who brought her tea during her stressful client calls. Not knowing those calls were scheduled around hotel bookings with strangers. Around 4 a.m. The burner phone buzzed again. My heart skipped. The message was simple. If you want answers, go to 527 Halifax Street. Don't bring the folder. Don't speak to anyone. You have 1 hour. I nearly didn't go, but something about the address scratched at the back of my memory. Halifax Street. Greta once mentioned it in passing. Said it was where she got her hair done. Small thing. Offhand. But now I knew. Greta never said anything by accident. I left the folder hidden behind the breaker panel in my hallway and drove across town. The streets were empty, wet from overnight rain. My hands shook on the steering wheel the whole way there. 527 Halifax looked abandoned. 2-story brick building with blacked-out windows. No signs. Just a keypad beside a rusted side door. I didn't even get to knock. The door clicked open before I touched it. Inside it was dim, quiet. I followed the only lit hallway to a small room with a single chair, a metal table, and a flickering security monitor in the corner. I stood there, waiting, unsure if I should sit, and then I heard a voice behind me. Still like your coffee with too much sugar? I turned. My breath caught. Greta. But not like I remembered. Gone was the polished, calculated elegance. Her hair was tied back messily. Her face looked tired, hollowed out. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked a human. I told them not to contact you, she said. They didn't listen. I didn't speak. Couldn't. My brain was still trying to process that she was even standing there. She stepped forward, eyes scanning me like she was trying to figure out whether I hated her or not. I'm sorry, Milo, she said. For all of it. You were never supposed to get dragged into this. Then why am I? I finally managed. Why the envelopes? Why the photos? Why the breakdown at the event? What the hell is going on, Greta? She flinched. That's not my name, she whispered. The silence that followed that sentence felt like it could split the room in half. She looked up at me, eyes watery but focused. Greta Rains doesn't exist. It was a cover. I was embedded. Years ago. Before you. You were real, Milo. You were the only real thing. But when I left, I knew they'd eventually use you to get to me. I thought disappearing would protect you. You lied to me for 5 years, I said, the words bitter in my mouth. Our entire marriage. What? It was just a mission. No, she said quickly. It started that way, but then it wasn't. I fell in love with you. That wasn't part of the plan. I laughed. Cold, sharp laugh. How convenient. She walked to the table, placed a USB drive on it. This has everything. The truth. About me. About them. About why they're watching you now. I didn't move. I wasn't sure I believed her, but I also wasn't sure I could afford not to. "They'll be here soon," she said, stepping toward the exit. "You have to choose, Milo. Take the drive, or walk away." And with that, she disappeared through the same door I came in. I was alone again. Just me, a USB drive, and the version of Greta I never knew existed. I didn't touch the USB drive for hours. I left it sitting on my kitchen counter like it might explode if I moved too fast. I must have circled it 15 times, pacing like a man on trial. Every time I reached for it, I saw her face. Greta, or whatever her real name was, standing in that gray-lit room, saying things that made my entire reality feel like a bad simulation. She said I was real, that what we had was real. But how could I believe anything now? At 2:13 a.m., I gave in. I slid the USB into my laptop and sat down like I was bracing for impact. No password, no encryption, just a single folder labeled Redemption. Inside were 4 video files, several scanned documents, and a PDF titled Milo and his... I opened the PDF first. It was a letter from her, from the woman I thought I knew. She said the operation had started years before we met. She'd been placed under a deep-cover identity after a whistleblower inside a multinational security firm flagged a covert financial pipeline. Money being funneled through shell companies, disguised as consulting fees, tied to people with clean public images and dirty private leverage. Politicians, executives, even people in law enforcement. She had been sent to monitor one specific name on that list, Dean Whitmore. Yeah. The same Dean from the event. The same man who looked like he saw the devil when he spotted me outside that hotel room. But here's the part that almost made me sick. According to her notes, Dean wasn't just laundering money. He was building profiles on people, normal people. People with access to sensitive systems but no reason to ever be suspected. People like me, because I worked in IT, because I handled internal credentials, because I trusted my wife. There it was in black and white. I had been used. They'd accessed my credentials, cloned my laptop, rerouted my access history, and Greta, whoever she was supposed to keep me in the dark long enough to finish the job. But something went wrong. She got pulled deeper. Lines blurred. She told her handler she wanted out, that she'd fallen in love with the asset me, and couldn't keep lying. They shut her down, erased her history. She disappeared. And now they thought she might leak. That's why she panicked when she saw me. Because I wasn't supposed to be there. Because they might think I was working with her now. I opened one of the videos. It was grainy security footage from an office space. Dean and Greta in the same frame. She's handing him a flash drive, he's handing her a slip of paper. They don't speak. No emotion. Just business. The timestamp was 1 week after she left me. She didn't run because she was scared of love. She ran because she broke protocol, and Dean knew it. I clicked another video. This time, Greta was speaking directly to the camera. Her voice shook. Her eyes were tired. She said she never meant to hurt me, that she tried to leave signs, small ones. An unplugged router, a misdated calendar, a file left open on her laptop. Things I chalked up to stress or accident. She thought I'd figure it out. She thought I'd ask. I didn't. I just assumed I wasn't enough. And now I had to ask myself, was I going to do anything with this? Because what I had on this drive wasn't just betrayal. It was proof. Dangerous proof. The kind of evidence that could destroy lives or get someone killed, including me. The burner phone buzzed again. They know you have the drive. If you want to survive this, you need to disappear. Now, I didn't run. Not immediately. Not out of bravery or principle or some desire to expose the truth. Honestly, I just sat there for a while, staring at the laptop screen, letting everything settle. I'd spent 3 years grieving a woman who never really existed, mourning a marriage that was built on a cover story. And yet, in some twisted way, I still felt something for her. Maybe not love, but a kind of broken respect. She tried to protect me even if it came too late. That night, I packed a bag. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted out. Not just out of the danger, but out of the cycle. Out of the bitterness. out of the obsession with answers that would never make me feel whole again. I left the USB in a lockbox, mailed anonymously to a journalist whose work I trusted. I didn't include my name, just a note. For what it's worth, someone tried to stop this. Then I deleted everything. The burner phone, the photos, the documents. I even sold the apartment a few weeks later. Too many memories in the walls. Too much pretending. Greta never contacted me again. Or whoever she really was. I think she knew I'd done what I needed to do, and she respected that. I moved to a smaller town. Nothing fancy. Got a job fixing old servers for a school district. Quiet, honest work. The kind that lets you sleep through the night. For the first time in years, I started breathing again. Not just surviving. Living. I still think about her sometimes. Wonder if she made it out. Wonder if she's still running. But then I remember what she said. That I was the only real thing in her life. Maybe that was true. And maybe it was enough. So yeah, that's the story. A woman saw me at a work event and collapsed in front of everyone. And behind that moment was an entire life of lies, choices, and consequences. But it ended with peace. And finally, freedom. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. Now it's your turn. Which moment in this story shocked you the most? And would you have opened the USB? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't yet, subscribe for more real, raw, and unexpected stories. Right here on Reddit Confessions.